Shalom. Welcome, family. Welcome to the Powah. So, in this Powah series, what I'd like to discuss with you is something that has been going on and taking place globally around the world. If you notice, especially not only among our people, but even in the New Age community, there is this awakening of consciousness. And why that is very, very important is for the fact that for our people, it's essential this time that we awaken into our higher state of our higher conscious self. So, in regards to this awakening of consciousness, there's a lot of different, if you listen to people in the New Age community, there is a vast majority of different, I guess, variations or interpretations of this particular dimension that we're entering in right now, known as the fifth dimension. So previously, let's say about a year ago, we were more along the lines of, and for the last, I guess, probably a couple of centuries, we were between the third and fourth dimensions, time and space continuum. But what is happening now is we are actually emerging into the fifth dimension in 5D. And so some people refer to this as the age of the Aquarius. People in the New Age community, you'll hear some of that talk as well. But apparently, in this particular realm, a state of consciousness, unlike the other previous states of consciousness in 3D or 4D, the third and fourth dimension, there is an awakening of our higher state of consciousness. And so when you listen to people sometimes in the New Age community, like I said, there is different interpretations of it. Or even, not even just the New Age community, even if you listen to people, let's say, in the Pan-African community, their version is a little bit different. So you get all from these different groups, you get different interpretations of what this fifth dimension is and what it means, as well as their, I guess, belief system. So the point I would like to make is when you listen to all these people, they all have, again, their interpretation. Well, the problem I have with their interpretation is, especially when you listen to the these Gentiles discuss it, people from the New Age groups. The problem I have with it is that these are people that have been, or should I say their ancestors, have been lying to us for generations. And so at this point, how can we trust anything that they tell us? Because what I have found, and what I'm sure you have discovered as well, is that if you have a people who've been lying since the beginning of their existence, when are they going to begin telling the truth? It's not what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you. Because what they need to tell you is not to their advantage. It's not advantageous to them. So how can you trust anything that they say, even about the realm, the dimension, the fifth dimension? So I thought about all of this and I said, my higher consciousness, in other words, my intuition, essentially made me aware that what we need is we need a pure awareness from a Shemitic perspective of all of this. And that relates back to our people's teachings, not the teachings of Gentiles and whites, but our ancestors. What their perspective was of this information and this Powah, in other words, power, that we have within ourselves, within our Shemitic mind. So this is what I refer to in some of my previous videos when I talk about the Shemitic mind within. I'm referring to our higher state of consciousness. This is what my intuition has made me aware of. We have got to realize that what we are is we are not ordinary beings. We never were. There are two different beings on this planet, two different species. And when the Creator designed us, when He made us, He gave us something very, very special. Um, he gave gifts to both species. So the two species that He made and He created, He gave, some refer to as, they have different names in various cultures, but some refer to them as, well, in the English language, as angels. He gave them gifts, but He also gave us gifts as well. And unlike His other children, He gave us something very special. And I probably will talk about this a little bit more in detail in my book that I'm working on, still working on, because I have a lot of ideas that are ongoing that I'm adding to. I'm going to add to some additional chapters, but I'm going to discuss what the most important gift that He gave us is. And actually, I'll probably talk about it in the video as well. Not this video, but maybe some other videos. But as part of the gift that He gave us, it is our responsibility to achieve a higher state of consciousness and become who we were always meant to be, who we were and who we were always meant to be as higher beings. We are not what we've been told we are by the community at large. So our enemies have referred to us by these labels that are it's not who we are. And once we come to terms to really accept and embrace who we are as the chosen ones of the Creator, then we can begin to really comprehend who we are and achieve our full potential. And so really the purpose of the Powah, this particular series that I'm doing today, and this is part one of it, is I would like to discuss aspects of our higher consciousness and what that really means and how we can tap into our higher consciousness in order to become more self-aware of who we really are as the chosen ones of the Creator. So let's get started. So the term melanin tends to refer to, at least the general idea of melanin is it's relative to one's skin tone or pigment. And the problem with this word is this word is not, it's not a Shemitic word. And we need to comprehend what this word really means, because our people, we use it a lot to refer to our variations in skin tone, brown skin. And we see it as this positive thing because, okay, we have this brown skin, and it enables us to, how should I say, stay in the sun longer than people who lack so-called melanin, which would be pale people, or Caucasians, or anyone with pale skin. And we say to ourselves, well, that's a good thing, and it is that we can endure longer periods of time in the sun, for example. We actually can absorb, unlike people that are pale, we can absorb UV radiation. But all of that is important, but we need to comprehend what this word actually means in our language, not in the English language, but in our language. So let's take a look. So when you look up the word, I'm not going to look up the word melanin, but I'm going to use the root of the word, same word. When you look up the word Milano, for example, and this is where it shares the same root as melanin, it essentially tells you that the word, which we're aware of, is supposedly it's a word that means dark skin, black, or someone that is dark in color. And melanin is related to one's pigment that is brown, black, or supposedly dark in color. Now, we know English language is not only a nonsensical language, it was designed to cause confusion in the first place. So, when we think about it, well, we know if melanin is supposed to be related to people that have pigment of black skin or someone that's black or brown, well, the word black has nothing to do with someone with brown skin. It has to do with someone has no, really no color, someone that is void of color. So that would be referring to a pale face person or a white or Caucasian person. So that's one of the things that we have got to stop doing and stop using these labels that we're given to describe our complexion, because that word doesn't even make sense. We're not, essentially, when you call yourself black, you're saying that you have no color. You're saying that you're white, because that's what the word means. And also, the root of the word means bleak. It is a negative, derogative word that, again, it was meant for them, describes them, but they told you that it had something to do with you and your skin tone. So that's the first thing that we need to get away from. That's why you hear me when I discuss skin, I refer to someone of brown skin. I don't use the word black. So, moving along, when we look this word up in the lexicon, we could type in melanin, but it's not going to really come up because melanin isn't, again, it is not a Shemitic word. It's an English word. It's non-existent in our language. But if we look up the root of the word melon, we get this word anash in the Shemitic. So what melanin refers to actually is someone that's frail, weak, and sick, desperately wicked, incurable. So essentially, now you know what the word means. So the word, if you think about it, let's think about the word melancholy. It's the same root. They both share the same root word. So when someone's melancholy, melancholy is associated with depression, sickness, just like the word melanin. So why would we use this word to describe our skin tone when it's a completely derogatory word associated with frailty, sickness, and even someone that's wicked? This is just a psychological warfare from our enemies to program you to believe and accept something that is simply a lie. You remember the word malaise? What does that word mean? A general feeling of discomfort, illness, or uneasiness or dis-ease, whose exact cause is difficult to identify. So, what does all of these words have in common? Melanin, malaise, melancholy. What do they have in common? They all share the same two lateral Shemitic root. All the same, essentially the same meaning. So let's find out, why did they, I guess the question is, if you're brain is really percolating right now, then the next question you should be asking yourself is, well, who are these sick people that they're referring to? I'm so glad you asked. So let's talk about it. The sick people they're referring to, it tells you right here in our Shemitic, in our own Shemitic dialect, our language. Now here it tells you that the actual word for melancholy, melanin, same difference, for sickness is, they're telling you the word is anash, but that's actually incorrect. And again, that is just the foreign scribes lying by omission. Not what they tell you, is not, it's what they really don't tell you. So if we read this with our Shemitic minds, not the anglicized mind that we have been taught, but with our Shemitic minds, and that would be reading it the way our people would have read it in the ancient world, from right to left, we get the word not Shana, because remember I've told you this in some of my previous videos, that they use the letter Sha and the letter Sa interchangeably to hide things that expose them. Okay? When the letter Sa was used in the ancient text or in the ancient context. So that letter. So in other words, this letter is incorrect. It shouldn't be the letter Sha that they refer to in the modern Hebrew as Sheen. It should be the letter Sa. So if we read it with the letter Sa, the word is San, Sana, or Asan. It's just a word play for the word Asan, which actually means paleness. It's associated with an offspring or a people that are pale in color. All right? So if we need further elaboration to essentially clarify this for you, well, let's just take a look here. We type in the word moon. There's your word right there. Now, to bring some clarification to this, let's think about it for a minute. What is the space, the association that primary mission is space exploration? The association is called NASA. And again, their primary objective is space exploration, which is associated with what? Exploring the moon. So let me tell you something. When white folks name things, they don't do anything haphazardly. There's always a rhyme and reason and a purpose for it. So, in other words, the reason why they call it NASA is because, or NASA, is because it is referring to the ancient word for moon, which is the letter and also the word Sa. Sa for moon, Asa. So, when you look at this word, Saharan, which is telling you it has to do with some sort of round pendant, well, again, that's just them lying as usual. You look down here, it tells you moon crescent is the actual meaning, and it goes on to say round like the moon. Also, not only round like the moon, pale like the moon, because that's where this word derives from. It derives from the letter Sa for moon. So that was removed from the modern Hebrew alphabet. But in the original alphabet of our ancestors, it's still there in the ancient language of our people. But they removed it because, well, let's face it, the moon, they told you, was the sun, all right, is associated with what? Not only paleness, but darkness. And it exposed them. So they obviously did a little switcheroo and removed that word, and actually removed the letter from the alphabet. So essentially, that's why you have it here, and they added a little letter there. Even one of their own linguists, I was reading an article from one of their linguists that had mentioned in this article that over time, and this isn't over time, but this is what they did essentially. He admitted that the language evolved, that they, part of their evolution of the language that they stole was doing like swapping out and changing roots and words associated with the same roots. So what they would do as part of that, and this is some of the many methods they did to change the language, and this was part of their revival of their own foreign language. They just used our language to improve upon their own. Is they would also not only exchange certain sounding letters with other letters, which essentially they did that to change the meaning of the words. And why would they do that unless they wanted to hide something that they did not want others to know? But that was one of their methods. And also they like to add letters to, instead of exchanging letters, one letter for another. In this context, what they actually did was they did not swap out letters, but they did what? They added a letter to change. They didn't change necessarily the meaning. They just added to the meaning instead it had to do with a pendant, which it really doesn't. But what they did was they just added a letter to throw you off and to hide what the actual letter is. Because if you remove the R, what do you get? You get the letter san, as in asan. And if you remove that R, and then again, read it with your Shemitic mind from what? If you read it, because right now, if you read it from right to left, you still get the word, even with the H, you still get the word Nasa. So really right now, you're looking at, this is an anagram of the word NASA or Nasa, which refers to not only the moon, but paleness. Now, let's talk about this letter. The letter that is being used here is the letter from our alphabet, Na. This is how we pronounce it, Na. Now, in the modern Hebrew, the letter is Nun, which refers to seed or offspring. So why did they add that letter? Well, they added that letter because not only are they referring to the paleness of the moon, but they're also referring to someone's paleness, like the moon, but also with the N added, it is referring to children or one seed or offspring, a people that are pale, like the moon. This word asan. And this is where the word NASA, as in NASA, is derived from. That's why they call their space mission, their exploration association, exactly what they call it, NASA, because they knew what they were doing when they did that. So let's continue here. One of the other things that I would like to tie in with this, and then also I want to show you this word really quick here, is the word Laban. They give you here Labana, which is again associating with the moon, white like the moon. So you see these words have two things in common. It refers to, and this is where you get the word albino, it refers to people that are pale like the moon. Now, at any rate, let's talk about what the actual, now that we know that this word is actually associated with infirmity and frailty, essentially a sick white person. Let's discuss what the actual word for so-called melanin actually is in our language, because you don't want to go around using the word melanin to describe your skin tone, because you're referring to a sick person. You're not a sick person. Now, the reason why this is really, really important, and I'm going to touch on that, I'll touch on this in a minute, is that we really need to comprehend what these words mean in our ancient language, because you see the confusion here. And I recall one of our brothers talking about ethnomedicine, and one of the things that I felt was really important that he stated was that even though he didn't understand the term melanin and what it actually meant, one thing that he stated was we really need a new practice of medicine for our people. And that was really the whole concept of ethnomedicine. And I really thought that he raised a very relative point for the fact that when you think about it, if this term melanin is really associated with a sick white person, then how are you going to go to the doctor for treatment, which is usually going to be more more cases than not going to a Caucasian physician for treatment of whatever condition that you may or may not have, and think that you're going to get treatment that is really relative to your physiology when the whole medical system is based on, in terms of their study of anatomy and their treatments, are really based and centered around their physiology, the physiology of a Caucasian person, not a brown person like yourself, not a Shemite or a Hamite for that matter. It's not for brown people because their study of medicine is not based on our physiology, is based on a white person's physiology. If you really think about it, I mean, this is why they gave you the term melanin. It's not only to trick you up in terms of to make you believe that you are something that you're not, but also because they knew what that word meant. And it was about treating themselves. They designed medicine to treat themselves. Even they say, oh, medicine is universal. No, it really isn't. Because there's a lot of racism in medicine. Let's think about all the vaccines that have gone around in our communities that have caused the problem and spread of autism among many brown children. So that should answer your first question. So yeah, we really do need more of our own people. We need our own healers. What I would like to refer to as shaman, because that was part of a shaman's role, was not only to protect our people, but they were also healers. So yeah, this is something that we really need to think about. And if anyone's already engaging in this concept or even practice, focus on practicing more, I would say, homeopathic or more natural medicine for our own people, that is something that is certainly worth looking into for any of our brothers and sisters. I would recommend, if you don't already have one of your own people as one of your physicians or healers, that might be something you may want to consider. I'm not saying that a Caucasian doctor or a Caucasian physician may not have your best interest at heart. There are some individually that may be operating that may be decent people. I think some of them really are. But they're very well aware that their study of medicine in the medicine field is based on their own physiology, and to treat them of the various diseases that they have, as well as the ones that they carry recessively. So, but that's just something for you to think about. So let's talk about what the so-called melanin actually means, or should I say the positive word that we should be using that refers to our genetic makeup, what the word actually means in our language. So when we think of this word melanin, our comprehension of this word is more relative to our skin tone, which is our layer of what? Protection. So if we go into the lexicon and if we type in the word, say for example, protection, so we get a whole slew of words here, but the word that we need to focus on is this word, kalmach. So in our language, remember, the root sound in our language is the sound ah, the ah sound. So this word we pronounce as not komach, but kalmach. which means a wall of protection, a wall or layer of protection. Alrighty? And it is not an unused root, it's a very used root. Now, if we think about that root, where does that root derive from? Well, it's actually in medicine under the term known as, referred to as what? Chemistry. Chemi. Now, I know we think of chemi as in Ham, the children of Ham, which relates back to what? Kemet. However, that word, if you look at, it shares the same root as the word chemistry. All right? It shares the same root. Also, the word chemical. So, the reason being why that's really important is because when you think of, some people refer to melanin, so-called melanin, as a complex chemical that runs throughout our entire, not only our central nervous system, but throughout our entire body, including our brain. It's also something that surrounds, let's say, a fetus, when a newborn fetus, they're enveloped in this what they refer to as a molecule or chemical known as, in our ancient language, is kalmach. It protects them in the womb. So it's really important that we think of the word relative to the ancient Shemitic, kalmach, not melanin. So you want to get away from saying that word, the M word, and focus on the C word, kalmach. And it derives from the letter kach, which means wall or protection, wall of protection. And that's why it is written with a CH. It's the kach, the letter kach, for protection. So if you need further clarification on this word, well, all you have to do is type in the word, for example, brown. There's your word right there as well. The word, they drop the H, and you have the word here, kum. Isn't there an old Negro spiritual that refers to kumbaya? Well, now, if your brain is really percolating, then now it kind of changes the meaning of what that word maybe originally meant to you when our people would sing that, when they would sing that song. Because when you refer to kum, we were referring to what? Something relative to protection. Okay? Because again, it's referring to the kalmach. It's part of the same root. And this is why it means brown. It means someone that is brown or dark brown, but the word not black. Black means white, and black means bleak. So stop using the word black. Bleak as in bleak future. Don't use that word. I keep telling our brothers and sisters, get away from using the words, terms like African, black, African American. We need to essentially get away from these words. Stop allowing people to mislabel. Label you, period. The whole objective of my teachings, brothers and sisters, is to raise awareness. I am here to open your Shemitic mind, the Shemitic mind within. That is my objective, to wake our people up. And this is information that I mean, it is my hope that you're passing on to your own children, because we should be educating our own people as well as our children. Kalmach. So this word again is associated with the layer, your skin tone, which is your layer of protection against the rays of the sun. Not only can we absorb radiation from the sun, but it also can transform that radiation into energy. So this is what this complex chemical that runs throughout our bodies, just many things, that it can do. It also can regenerate our cellular tissue as well as DNA, repairs our DNA. We can actually heal ourselves if we learn how to channel our energy, frequency, and vibration. And I'm going to talk about frequency and vibration on another video. I'm not going to get into that today because I don't want the video to be too long. But back on topic, this is why our call mark is important. So I'm going to stop right there. And what I will do is I will pick this series up next week and continue where I will be discussing the additional parts of our physiology tied to our karma, and that will also help you to achieve your highest potential as higher beings that the Creator has always meant for you to be, and especially during this time of awakening, in order to help you to expand your higher state of consciousness and to harness the Powah, that is the power the Creator has given you. So thanks so much for watching, brothers and sisters, and may the Most High awaken the Shemitic mind within. Shalom.